Yo, what's going on guys? Reese here from Stoic Pool, and this is module 2 of the Aiken course empowered by the Cardano Foundation. And in this module, we're going to be having a look at writing tests for our validators. Let's get into it. Right guys, so before we get into this module, I forgot to set you homework for module 1. So before we get into any tests, what I want you to do is I want you to go to the delist redeemer case, and I want you to, right now we're just basically checking for a signature for the owner or the seller, but what I want you to do is I want you to add an extra point of validation, and I want you to check that the asset is being sent back to the seller as well. All right, because otherwise, let's just imagine someone tricks the seller into signing a transaction that could be going anywhere. So we want to make sure that that can't happen. All right, and this is like a potential exploit in the validator, and we're going to cover a lot more potential exploits and how to deal with some common exploits and stuff in validators, but we're not going to cover that right now. We're going to go through our testing module. I want you just to go and try and do that homework by yourself. I'm not going to give you an answer until probably later on down the line, so just give it a go. Everything you need to do that is already in the validator. Like, we've already covered all these things, and I know we've only used like one function, basically, like that list find in a list, but like that's all you need. You don't need anything else, so just go through, have a look through the validators and see if you can solve that yourself. All right, so we've covered that, but now let's get into that actual testing module. So why do we need to write tests? First off, you should be writing tests anyway for your code to prove that it does what it says it's going to do, and that's really the reason that we're going to be doing these tests. But also, another thing that's really important with validators especially is we're dealing with people's crypto, right? We're dealing with assets, we're dealing with currency or money at some level. You know, it might be monopoly money, it might not, it doesn't matter. The point is, this is people's stuff. It's not yours. So fair enough, you want to write a validator and you don't really care whether it can be exploited or not, you don't want to get it audited, you don't want to write tests, that's fine. If it's only dealing with your stuff, crack on. But the reality is that most dApps on Cardano or any other blockchain are dealing with other people's stuff, right? You're building services for other people to use. And so you have a duty to them and to anyone else who are like potential users in the future to make sure that the products and the services you're building are secure, that everyone's funds are safe. Because I mean, I don't really need to explain that anymore, do we? It's kind of obvious. So we want to make sure that we are proving to ourselves before anything goes to like an audit or anything. We first need to prove that the validators do what we expect them to do. And this is a good way to check all the logic in your validators, because you can write a transaction, you can like design a transaction in a test that is supposed to succeed, like validation is supposed to work, and if it doesn't, you know you've written your validator wrong. You've done something in your validator that is incorrect, essentially. But it's also really good for finding exploits, and there are several common exploits or exploitable avenues, really, because there haven't really been a lot of exploits on Cardano, but the avenues that you could use to mint extra tokens or trick validators into allowing you to spend or withdraw assets and stuff like that. And we're going to cover those things in a later module, but for now we're just going to prove that our validators do what they say they're going to do. We're going to have a passing unit test for each of the redeemer cases, and we're going to show you how to write failing cases as well, so that we can prove that it doesn't work when it's not supposed to, which is another test that really should be written for all validators. All right, cool. So lecture over. That's it for this video. Grab yourself a coffee, and in the next video, we're going to write our first test for our market buy redeemer case. I'll see you then.